conservative new media viewers and Jeremy Lin fans around the world. What's up? It's me, PFV, Paul F. Villarreal, the NBA expert, and we are here to talk about Jeremy's new video called You've Changed, Bro. And look, I actually spent a lot of time working on the research for this, but something came up with something in my family, and to make a long story short, this is not going to be exactly what I wanted it to be, which is kind of like what happened when I reviewed the Reloaded video, but hopefully it'll still be pretty good. I'm just going to have to do this quicker than I wanted to do it. Look, this video is great. This video is awesome. In some ways, it's even better than the Reloaded video, although it's a perfect companion piece to the Reloaded video, because both of the videos are geared towards addressing the concerns of critics or haters or doubters, whatever you want to term that group of people. And they just do it in different ways. Reloaded is a straight ahead video. It's a training video. It's, look, I'm working on the things that all of you critics have said I need to work on. Now, You've Changed, Bro talks about the same thing, but it talks about it from a comedic standpoint. It's funny, and it's supposed to be funny, but it's going over the same territory, and it's awesome. It's just great. As I said about Reloaded, I'm extremely happy with the group of people that Jeremy is working with and making these videos. I don't know all of them. I know that if you look in the video description of Jeremy's, of the You've Changed, Bro, he mentions somebody named Justin Yu, I believe it is. He also mentioned somebody, I think, who is named Jeremy Cho. Now, he puts in information for Jeremy Cho. And Jeremy Cho, find out if you go to hit the IMDb page, is somebody who works in visual effects in Hollywood. And they mention in that person's list of projects that Jeremy Cho has done a lot of work with rotoscoping, I believe, in addition to other things. Now, in the comments section of the Reloaded review that I did, it is pointed out by somebody that the shot of Jeremy at the end of the video, where there's about 15 different images of Jeremy in different times, that was done with rotoscoping. So maybe Jeremy Cho was involved in the Reloaded video as well. But Jeremy Cho is a professional. This is somebody that's a professional visual effects person. So again, as I mentioned about Reloaded, Jeremy is working with professional people here. Not all of them, but probably several of them. And even the people that might not be quote-unquote professionals in videos are clearly good at what they do, and they know what they're doing. You don't have to be a professional to be good at something. You don't have to get paid to do it or work for a big Hollywood studio in order to be very good at creating videos or making films or movies or whatever you want to call it. Now, part of the research that I did for this video was I was trying to look up who Justin Yu is. I found several people named Justin Yu, and I'm sure there's many people named Justin Yu in the world. I do not know which of them Jeremy is talking about when he says he wanted to thank his good friend Justin Yu. But there is somebody named Justin Yu who lives in the Bay Area who is a professional photographer, and that person also does professional video work. Like he has done professional video work for at least one company. So maybe that's the Justin Yu who Jeremy is referring to. And that would make sense. I mean, or it could make sense. It could make sense that he's working with a high level or somebody that's a professional videographer, essentially, and photographer, as well as somebody like Jeremy Cho, who's a professional visual effects person, because the video looks really good. And again, it goes to the point that I was making before, which is that it certainly seems as though Jeremy Lin is taking the video seriously, and they look like that. And the concepts and the way they're put together in terms of the writing and the thinking of how to create them are done at a high level. And as I mentioned earlier, that's awesome. As a fan of his, I'm glad that he's doing that. Now, there are a couple different themes in this video, and they revolve around, obviously, the concept of change, a little bit about the nature of celebrity, and certainly a lot of it has to do with the criticism towards Jeremy Lin, or the reaction to Jeremy Lin. Now, the overriding message of this video that is seen in, there's maybe, 10 or 12 scenes in this video. The overriding message of those scenes is the absurdity of the criticism that Jeremy gets. What I mean is just the foolishness, the silliness of the criticism that Jeremy receives, and the universal or nearly universal nature of the criticism that Jeremy receives. And what I mean by that is everybody's criticizing him. And we talk about this all the time, and I mentioned it in the Reloaded analysis. I'm so happy that Jeremy's making these videos because everybody's dissing him. He needs to have somebody, even if it's just him, defending him. And we talked about this in the Reloaded analysis, that this is about, again, taking control of your own public image, taking control of your own narrative. Remember, the narrative just being what is the generally accepted version of events about something. And in this case, it's the generally accepted version of events about Jeremy Lin, which until recently has been, oh, he didn't work that hard. And he's still trying to live off Linsanity 1.0. And he doesn't care about basketball. And he doesn't do this. And he doesn't do that. Blah, blah, blah. So by doing these videos, he's answering that. He and the people around him that are part of his team and that want to help him out, they're responding to that. They're commenting on that concept or set of concepts. And that's good. And just to help make the point that there's a kind of universal or nearly universal criticism of Jeremy, they even have the character of his mother criticizing him in the video, excuse me. You know, it's for the tattoo, and I'll talk about that more in a second, but that's to help drive home the point. Yeah, everybody is criticizing him, and that's good. Like I said, this is a well-done thing, and good videos, good films, good parodies, they're good because oftentimes because they're realistic. This is true. This does happen to Jeremy, as we've talked about any number of times. It is silly, the amount of criticism that he gets. And so to make a video talking about the silliness of that is effective because it's based in reality. Now, I want to go over, we're going to go over scene by scene here, and I'll kind of flesh out my thoughts and what I'm saying right now in terms of scene by scene to kind of show you how they did this. One more thing, though, before I do that. There are various people in this video, including people like Kev Jumba, Ryan Higa, Phil Wang. I think Jeremy's friends with these people. I'm almost certain that he's friends with Kev Jumba. But they're playing characters. In other words, this isn't really them. They're playing a role to try to help make the point. And so, that's not really how they feel about Jeremy. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you know that, but they're playing a role to help drive home the point that they're trying to make. And so it's not the way these people actually feel about Jeremy. I'm quite sure about that. Okay, let's go through this scene by scene, and I'll point out to you kind of what I said before, and just kind of how you continue to see the same themes in this scene by scene. Okay, first scene, Jeremy's getting into the Volvo. Now, of course, Jeremy's a endorser for Volvo. So, as I talked about in the Reloaded video, no shots are accidental. In the Reloaded video, when Jeremy's about to lift the weights, they make sure that there's a close-up of you can see how much weight it is. Well, in this first scene, they made sure that you could see that was a Volvo car. Now, I don't know if that's a joke, yeah, Jeremy's a Volvo endorser, and here he is driving his Volvo like a good Volvo endorser, or if it's kind of more along the lines of what is known as product placement. And kind of like, yeah, here's a Volvo, right? Jeremy endorses Volvo, and here's a Volvo. I don't know, but it certainly stands out, and that the people that shot the video made sure that you could see that was a Volvo. I thought that was pretty good. So Jeremy's about to get into his car, and these reporters or students, rush all around him. And, the one guy basically hits him with the boom mic in the face. And I think one of the guys shouts student project. In other words, they're working on a project for high school or college or whatever. And they ask Jeremy, one of the guys does, how has the NBA changed you? So we immediately get into the concept of change, which of course makes sense for a video named You've Changed, Bro. Then Jeremy goes into a memory sequence, remembering. I think that's what it is. You could also say it's a dream sequence, but I think it's just a memory sequence. We go into, and that helps to point out the thing. These guys don't care about Jeremy at all. They want to do their thing for the student project. And that's made clear by the guy hitting Jeremy in the face with the microphone. It's like they don't care. Jeremy is just a guy that they need something from. They want something from him. And so they're not interested in whether they hit him in the face with the microphone. It's like, dude, what are you going to do for us? We need you for the student project. Hey, answer our questions or whatever. So that's the setting. That's the beginning of this video. And it definitely helps to set the tone. Okay. So we go into the second scene, and the scene is at like a cafe or something, and you see that there's a girl trying to basically take a sneaky picture of Jeremy. She puts her camera phone around a newspaper to take the photo. And Jeremy sees this. And he's trying to be nice. And he says to the girl, look, I can take a picture with you. And then she responds, I don't take pictures with strangers. And then this immediately goes into the man that he's sitting with, says, dude, not everyone wants to take a picture with you. And then Jeremy looks at the guy like, what are you talking about? In other words, it's clear that this girl wants a picture of me, and I'm actually trying to help her. And now both the girl and the guy he's sitting with are like treating him like he's nuts. In other words, like there's something wrong with him, even though the truth is there's something wrong with them. And then the guy goes right into, saying that you've changed, bro. So that's the first time we hear this in the video. And the point here is that people are quick to criticize Jeremy. In other words, he's reacting normally to the situation. He's trying to be nice. And first the girl disses him by, basically, hey, you're a stranger. Yeah, a stranger whose picture you're trying to take. And he's trying to help you out, and then you treat him like he's a freak. You're a stranger. So that doesn't make sense. Again, it's absurd. It's absurd, as I said. That's the overriding theme throughout this video, is the absurdity of the criticism and the reactions to Jeremy. So what the girl said is inconsistent. It's silly. You want his picture, but then you basically diss him when he tries to be nice to you. And then the guy acts like Jeremy has a big head, like he's making up the fact that the girl wants to take the picture of him, which is ridiculous. She's clearly trying to take a picture. And then so just because he said that or he reacted to that, the guy's like, oh, you think everybody wants to take your picture? And as I said, a part of the theme of the video is the nature of celebrity. When you become famous, everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants a piece of you. And that's what this girl was doing. And that's what the reporters or whatever the students in the first scene were doing. Everybody's trying to get to Jeremy now. And so the video is about change. But the truth of the matter is, and how Jeremy's changed, the truth of the matter is, and one of the things they're trying to get across in this video is that Jeremy hasn't changed so much, but everybody else has changed in how they treat Jeremy. It's kind of ironic. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it's the flip. It's not that Jeremy changed. It's that these people have changed in how they react to Jeremy, because now he's a big star. And everybody's reacting to that, whether they want a piece of him, they want a picture of him, they want to interview him, they want to pretend that he's got a big ego and he's making up things like people want to take pictures of him when clearly that's what they want to do. And so it's a very well done aspect of this video, is that it's kind of, again, it's ironic, or it flips the concept on its head that he changed by really, it's almost like the director of this video is pointing the camera at the critics and saying, no, you changed. Like the people in this video, you changed. You changed in how critical you are of Jeremy and how much you scrutinize every single thing he does. Even though he's acting normally, you're not. You're making absurd criticisms of him. And that's a very well done job of thinking of how to make this video and how to get your point across and do it kind of in an ironic way, or in a way that is not what you expected it to be. And again, that's good. That's not easy to do. You have to work to be able to come up with that type of an idea and execute it properly. Okay, so there's that. Going into the third scene, Jeremy walks into the room and he jumps onto the bed and he says, longest flight ever. And then the guy that's with him basically puts out like a little blanket and like a stuffed animal and like a stuffed animal as a pillow, and then says, why don't you sleep right here? And, in other words, don't sleep on the bed. Sleep on this little cover and stuffed animal pillow that I put on the floor for you instead. And then Jeremy says, is it cool if I stay right here instead? In other words, is it okay if I stay on the bed rather than sleep on the floor? And then the guy says, what, you're too good for the couch now? And then Jeremy says, but this is an extra guest bed. In other words, nobody else is sleeping in this bed. Nobody's even using this bed. I'm not allowed to sleep on the bed? And the guy says, you've changed, bro. And then Jeremy kind of rolls back onto the bed and rolls his eyes back in his head like, oh my, well, what are you, what the heck? And this goes back to the previous scene, which is when his buddy or whoever he is sitting at the cafe with, it's like he's treating Jeremy like he's crazy. When Jeremy says that, Jeremy didn't say anything. He just reacted to the girl and tried to help her out. And the guy's like, oh, you think everybody wants to take your picture? And Jeremy looks at him like, what are you talking about? That's the same reaction here. And what the guy's asking him, it's like, yeah, you want him to sleep on the floor even when there's a bed right here for him. It's crazy. It's absurd. And again, it carries through the consistent message of the video, which is the criticism directed to Jeremy by the critics, by the haters, is ridiculous. And in this sense, also in this scene, there is a concept of change in a positive way. Yet Jeremy doesn't have to sleep on the couch anymore. Yet some people, if you listen to them, it's almost like that's what they want him to do. They don't want him to change in a positive way. They want him to be the guy still on the couch, even though he doesn't need to be on the couch anymore. And that's kind of what's represented in that scene. Look, I'm not struggling to make ends meet anymore. Is that okay? Is that all right with you guys? And again, that goes to the absurdity of the criticism. And it goes to the critics being the ones who have changed, or being the ones who don't want Jeremy to change. And so instead of looking at themselves, they're projecting their own issues onto him. They want him to be what he used to be for them, but he's changing. He doesn't have to be on the couch anymore. He's getting better as a player. Is that okay? And that's basically what is being said in this scene, and we will see the same theme in a scene later in the video. So that's part of what's being said here, and it's very effective. It's just ridiculous. Why do I have to sleep on the floor when there's a bed right here for me? That doesn't make any sense, and it's true, it doesn't make sense. Okay, we go into the next scene, and two of Jeremy's friends are waiting for him. And Jeremy comes in, and he has a backpack, has a heavy backpack on his back, and he has on like a hoodie or something. And my impression of that is like he just came from an airport or something. He's traveling, or certainly he's hustling to get to where he is. And then they're basically going to play, the three of them are going to play like something like Guitar Hero or some type of game like this. And Jeremy's role in this is to play drums. And you can see by the way that the shot is and what the music or the sounds is that, they fail as a team. Jeremy messes up his part or doesn't drum right or whatever it is. And so the first guy says to him, the first guy, they're upset that they failed as a team, whatever. The first guy says, "Did you practice at all this week?" And then Jeremy says, "Hey, I just came off a 4-game road trip." And then the other guy looks at Jeremy and says, "This is a game to you? You've changed, bro." And then shakes his head disapprovingly. Once again, ridiculous expectations by people, by critics, by people looking in at Jeremy's life. And again, the characters in the video are meant to represent just your average person that's looking at Jeremy and in terms of what's being presented about Jeremy from the media, and certainly kind of just critics and haters. And so Here are these guys that are supposed to be Jeremy's friends. Jeremy's busting his tail to come and try to participate in something that he probably used to participate in, doing these little video game meetups. But he's an NBA player now. He's got to fly around the country. He's got to prepare for his games. And these guys don't seem to understand that. It's like their entire world is like, hey, dude, we got to play this game. Are you playing the game? And he's like, dude, I just got off a 4-game road trip. I can't practice. Basically the implied subtext here is I can't practice for a video game. I got to compete and have a spot in the NBA and try to improve and stuff. But they don't understand that. And again, going to critics or people around celebrities, they're not interested, many of those people, in the welfare of the celebrity. They're interested in what that person can do for them. These guys don't care about Jeremy's life or what he has to do. All they care about is what they care about. And how does Jeremy fit into that? And that's similar to it's similar to the students in the first thing. I don't care if they hit Jeremy in the face with a microphone. Jeremy's there for them to interview, and they want Jeremy to fulfill that role, and that's all they care about. And these guys playing a video game, all they care about is Jeremy doing a video game right, which is crazy. I mean, again, it's absurd. It has to do with expectations. You guys aren't being realistic about what Jeremy's life is. And I don't mean you guys as listening to this video. I mean these guys in this scene aren't being realistic about Jeremy's life. And they're only thinking in a selfish way about what is Jeremy doing for us. Okay, moving on to the next scene. We see Ryan Higa, a.k.a. Nigga Higa, on YouTube, was a huge star, as most of you watching this know. And this is just a great scene. And it certainly resonates for me, and I know it'll resonate for a lot of you. So, Ryan Higa does a monologue, and he says, so I just watched the Rockets lose to the Spurs again, and Jeremy had 12 turnovers again, and he gave up 40 points to Tony Parker again. So I'm a little frustrated right now, and I'm going to give him a call and give him some basketball tips because clearly he needs them. And then you see a shot where it's 3:53 in the morning. And what's even more hilarious is that if you see on Ryan's phone that it says Coach Ryan Higa. So it's just trying to get across again, like critics, various critics, and honestly, it's making fun of even people like me. People that are trying to tell Jeremy how to play basketball. Now, again, I don't really get into that. This is more, I think, more pointed towards people that they know better than Jeremy, supposedly, about how to play basketball. But, it's a parody of me and many other people on YouTube and all over the place that think they know how to play basketball better than Jeremy Lin does. And so it's just great that they had the little coach thing there. It's like, yeah, Ryan thinks he's a coach, or his character in this thing thinks he's a coach. So that's hilarious. And you switch to Jeremy. Jeremy turns on his light to answer the phone, and he says, hello. And then Ryan immediately snaps at him. Hey, wow, could you sound any less excited? And then Jeremy's like, what? And then Ryan says, you know what, man, forget it. I was going to call you to give you basketball tips to help out your career, and you're going to treat me like this? You've changed, bro. Then he hangs up the phone. They show Jeremy. He kind of rolls back in bed and falling asleep and is just exasperated. Again, this reinforces what I'm saying. Absurd criticism And it's about the critics. It says more about the critics than it does about Jeremy. What Ryan says is that I'm calling you, Jeremy, to help you. In other words, the premise is that Jeremy needs Coach Ryan's help, which is absurd. It's crazy. Coach Ryan isn't in the NBA. Jeremy is. If anybody knows how to play basketball, it's the guy that's actually in the NBA. Now, just again to put it, just to make the point, Jeremy knows more about basketball than I do. Making my videos, I know plenty about basketball, but Jeremy knows more about basketball than I do. Jeremy knows more about basketball than almost anybody criticizing him, critiquing him, hating on him, writing on a message board of what he needs to do. So again, this goes to the absurdity of the criticism towards Jeremy. And not only are the criticisms absurd, people actually have the audacity to say that they're criticizing Jeremy because they want to help him. Like Ryan says, like Coach Ryan says, I called you up to help your career. That's nonsense. You're not calling him up to help his career. You're calling him up because you want him to do something. Just like the students in the first scene, they want an interview with Jeremy. Just like the guys playing the video game, they're not interested in Jeremy. They're interested in Jeremy helping them and helping do what they want to do, which is to succeed at the video game. So again, this is a critique of the critics, and it's effective, and it's funny. I mean, it's hilarious, and it's just works extremely, extremely well. And it's consistent. Again, there is a consistent message through all of these scenes, or consistent several messages. Moving on to the next scene. You see Jeremy kind of dancing around. I think he's got like a deer hat on or something. And then you see him, and he has one of those little things, and I can't remember what they're called, but you snap it if you're shooting film, and you snap it to say action. And then Jeremy says, he says something about, hey, I love dance intros. I don't know what that is. That's probably a joke on something, but I don't know what it is a joke about. And then Kev Jumba, the YouTube star, real name Kevin Wu, I believe, comes into the room. And he says to Jeremy, yo, Jeremy, you ready? And then Kevin sees that Jeremy has the hat on. He kind of sees that maybe Jeremy's working on a video, and he's not happy. You can see he's kind of angry. And Kev says, what are you doing? And then Jeremy says, Jeremy's kind of reserved, he almost feels like, he knows Kevin's mad. And he's like, well, I want to try to make my own videos, and have my own channel. He's almost apologetic about it. And then you can tell that Kev Jumba's mad. And then Kev says, yeah, you have your own channel now? And he's all upset about it, basically. So now you can't do videos for me? And then he goes, dogs are loyal. You're not my dog now. Hey, you're my dog. You're my guy. And then the next thing Kev Jumba says, and this is so true of Jeremy's critics, he says, go work on your jump shot, man. And then he says it again, go work on your jump shot. Jeremy says, is something bothering you? How's your movie doing? And then Kevin's like, what'd you say? And then he says, I'm trying to help you make videos, and you're going to bring up something irrelevant? You've changed, bro. Once again, a brilliant scene, and it reinforces everything we've already talked about. First of all, Kevin's not interested in Kevin's character. And again, this is effective because it plays off of real things. Everybody knows, or most people know, that Jeremy's made videos with Kevin. Appeared in videos that on Kevin's channel. And so they're riffing, they're playing off of something real, but they're doing it in a way to make the point. Obviously, Kevin's not mad at Jeremy. I'm sure Kevin's happy for Jeremy to do his own videos. Excuse me, but Kevin's playing the role of a critic and an unreasonable critic. And so what's the first thing? And he says he's upset that Jeremy is making his own videos and has his own channel. Why? Because he wants Jeremy to do, or his character, he wants Jeremy to do what he wants him to do. He wants Jeremy to basically be his little lapdog. The same way that the students in the first scene wanted Jeremy to just do the interview for them. The same way that the guys in the video game scene just want Jeremy to play the video game well. They're not concerned about Jeremy. They're concerned about what Jeremy can do for them. Again, that goes to the nature of celebrity, and it goes to, again, the absurd criticism of Jeremy and what it's really about in a lot of ways. In other words, it's not about Jeremy. It's about the people criticizing Jeremy. Whatever it is, whether it's they want Jeremy to do certain things, or they want Jeremy to help them out, or they want Jeremy to be in their video, or whatever it is. The point is that it's about them. The issues are about them. It's not about Jeremy. And they don't care about Jeremy. They care about them. And that's, again, it's very, very well done in this video, in this particular scene as well. And as I said, when Kev Jumba says the thing about go work on your jump shot, that's a go-to line. So if you're mad at Jeremy Lin, if you're upset with Jeremy Lin for any reason, or if you're upset with anybody, any celebrity, any athlete you like or whatever, but particularly Jeremy Lin in this instance, because everybody likes to pick on Jeremy Lin, which is a lot of what this video is about. All you have to do is just say one phrase or something to diss him. Go work on your jump shot, man. In other words, I don't care what you want to do. I don't care what your life is. If you do anything that's not working on your game, I'm going to call you out. If I'm mad at you, I'm going to say, you know what? You ain't working on your game. You're not taking your game seriously. Go work on your jump shot, Jeremy. Go work on your jump shot. And that's a perfect representation of how critics are towards Jeremy. And if you follow the conversations about Jeremy around the internet, you've seen this 100 times. I know I've seen it on various sites. Hey, Jeremy's in Asia. He should be working on his game. It's ridiculous. It's like Jeremy doesn't have a life. It's like Jeremy can't have his own channel. Jeremy can't do anything to please his critics. That's the message of this. That's the message of this video. And it's crazy that these people treat him like this. And that scene with Kev Jumba it's a perfect representation of exactly the kind of conversations that go on about Jeremy every single day all over the internet. Okay, going on to the 7th scene of the video. Jeremy's walking in a hallway, and then out pops a guy named Phil, who is Phil Wang of Wong Fu Productions. Phil says to Jeremy, hey, Jeremy, you remember me? And Jeremy's like, and he's like, Phil, right? Like, I'm Phil. Then Phil says, hey, we used to play in middle school together. And Jeremy says, sorry about that. I just, somebody's leaving an answering machine message and I wanted to see what it was. Jeremy says, oh yeah, maybe we played during recess or whatever. In other words, Jeremy doesn't remember this guy, but this guy popped out of the woodwork and now he's trying to be Jeremy's best friend. And then, Phil's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had so much fun back then or whatever. And then the guy says that he still plays basketball on Sunday sometimes. And then he offers to Jeremy, hey, man, we should work out together. Yeah, I can help you out with your game. I can help you out with your dribbling. And Jeremy's just kind of like, yeah, sure you can. But he's trying to be nice about it. And then Jeremy finally, says to the guys, he keeps walking, yeah, I'm really sorry, but, I'm working out with somebody else now. And Phil's like, oh, no, okay. Then Jeremy knocks on the door, and then Phil's kind of still trying to give him the whole sales pitch, basically, look, I'm so much better now, and da-da-da-da. And Steve Nash opens the door, and he and Jeremy kind of greet each other, whatever. Steve asked Jeremy Lin, you ready to work out? And then Phil comes in and says, you're going to diss me for this, Grandpa? So not only is he upset with Jeremy, now he's dissing Steve Nash. Maybe he doesn't even know who Steve Nash is. Maybe he does, but maybe he doesn't. This guy, that's the awesome, incredible basketball player that's going to help Jeremy out, might not even know who Steve Nash is. In fact, he doesn't know who Steve Nash is because Jeremy says, that's Steve. And he's trying to tell this guy, basically, you know who this guy is? And then Phil cuts him off and says, of course, you've changed, bro. Steve Nash has a funny little line and says, hey, dude, take a hike. Just a funny little thing. Message of this scene goes to about, again, the nature of celebrity and the demands on Jeremy's time and on any celebrity's time, actually. Once you become famous, everybody wants a piece of you. And so people start popping out of the woodwork. People you don't even remember that maybe you met once. Now they're your best friend. They want to get back in with you because they want a piece of the success. That's what this thing is talking about. And again, it's not about Jeremy. This guy can't help Jeremy with his game. Or he certainly can't help Jeremy with his game better than Steve Nash can. And again, this guy that's supposedly the basketball maestro doesn't even know who Steve Nash is. Steve Nash, two-time NBA MVP, and regarded as one of the greatest point guards probably in the history of the game. So if you're Jeremy Lin and you're trying to improve your game, which he clearly is, who's better to work with than Steve Nash? I can tell you one thing, just as an aside. Steve Nash is a phenomenal dribbler, and he has a very well-known routine in terms of how to practice dribbling that he goes through and that he taught himself, I believe, and that helped him to improve. So it's like, in other words, there's an implicit underlying message in this scene as well, which is, Jeremy's talking to Steve Nash about how to get better at dribbling. You get it, haters? Is that good enough? But it's not good enough, which is, again, the entire theme of the video. Nothing is good enough for the critics of Jeremy Lin and for the people that want a piece of Jeremy Lin, including the character played by Phil Wang in this movie. Again, just brilliant. This is all just, it's extremely well done and well conceived. Okay, then moving on to the next scene. We are in what I believe to be is the gym at UCLA, the University of California, Los Angeles. And we see a 2-on-2 game being played between a team of Patrick Beverly. That's right, Patrick Beverly, who supposedly is at odds with Jeremy, or he and Jeremy are competing and they don't like each other. No, here's Patrick Beverly in Jeremy's video. And, not just, and to make the point even clearer, Patrick's on Jeremy's team. So there's a symbolic thing there too. Like, yeah, Patrick's cool with Jeremy, even if all you haters who are trying to play Patrick Beverly off of Jeremy Lin aren't cool with Jeremy Lin. So that's another implied message, a subtext, if you will. Subtext is just something that's not clear or it's not stated, but it's represented. It's implied. And so the concept of making Patrick and Jeremy on the same team, I think, is a little bit of a deliberate subtext or helps to deliver a certain subtext. So I'm not sure who it is that's guarding Patrick Beverley in the video. I know various people have been trying to figure it out, and honestly, I don't know who it is. I'm really not sure. Maybe it's, I don't know. I'm not sure who it is. Anyway, Patrick passes the ball to Jeremy. And what do we see Jeremy do? We see Jeremy do a textbook lefty layup. Now, as you guys know, as we talked about in the Reloaded analysis, Jeremy has been criticized many times about finishing with his left hand, about dribbling, and I mean finishing as in finishing a move, driving to the basket and using the left hand to make the shot, basically to make a left-handed layup. He's been criticized for that. He's been criticized for doing it improperly. As again, I've pointed out, I've criticized him, but it's more of I was responding to other people criticizing him. But I criticized him, and that's fair. And I take responsibility for that. Again, this video is made for all critics and all critiquers, and that includes me. Now, again, I'm not saying they did this because of me, because I'm certain that they didn't do it because of me. Because, again, I'm one of the only people that tries to give Jeremy a fair shake, in my opinion. And in other words, I'm not saying that to play myself up. I'm more saying that there's so many vicious critics of Jeremy that I think in some ways the work that we do is kind of an oasis from Haterville. And so it's like, again, they're not making this video about people like myself. They're making it about the vast wilderness of Haterland. So Jeremy does a perfect lefty layup, and then James Harden, who just does a great job, goes, "Really? You never use your left hand." And in other words, like it's a bad thing. And then they show Jeremy's like shrugging his shoulders, like, "What? What are you talking about? You know, like I can't believe you're criticizing me for this." And then back to James Harden shaking his head. "You've changed, bro." And well, let me just finish up that sequence again. Two things. One, the absurdity of the criticism. So even if Jeremy does something right, people are still criticizing him. And again, James Harden isn't criticizing him. James Harden is playing the role of a hater. And so, you know, it's just why Jeremy's like, what are you talking about? You know, it's good that I'm able to use my left hand. That's what you want, isn't it? But again, you can never satisfy critics that don't want to be satisfied. So the scene is a representation of Jeremy doing something properly on which he's been criticized for, and that's still not good enough for the critic, who is represented by James Harden. And then you have Jeremy comes out of his little remembering sequence, which goes back to the first scene with the students/reporters. And so that's kind of, again, the concept there being he's remembering all of this, kind of what he's gone through since he's been in the NBA, or the counter interpretation is that this was all a dream. But I think it's more of supposed to be a memory. And the phone is ringing. Jeremy picks it up, and he says he'll be right there. And then the final scene of the video, the scene, or the proper video, so to speak. Jeremy is in the kitchen of his mom, who I believe is actually the mother of Kev Jumba, although I'm not sure about that. But I do not think that's Jeremy's actual mother, although I could be wrong about that. And if I'm wrong, I apologize, Mrs. Lin. Jeremy is talking to the camera then, and he says, "See, I haven't changed. I still help my mom make dinner." And then they show Jeremy, they show him reaching for one of the cupboards to get something, for dinner, and he's got a tattoo on his arm. And then they show the face of his mother, and the mom's freaking out because he has a tattoo. And then you fade to black, and basically she's hitting him twice with the spatula. And then we hear Jeremy say, "At least it's in Chinese." And again, as I said earlier in this video, my interpretation of that scene is, Jeremy doesn't have any tattoos. That's a fake tattoo. But the point of that scene, in my opinion, is that Jeremy can't do anything right. No matter what he does, someone's upset with him, including his own mother. And so the plea that at least it's in Chinese, it's like, wouldn't you be happy it's in Chinese? But no, he can't do anything right. He can't do anything right. It's everything he does is wrong. And of course, it's not that his mother dislikes him or whatever. It's that the mom is representing a hater. And so everybody's mad at him. Everybody's a critic. And again, look, Jeremy's going through this. And the truth is that anybody in the public eye goes through increased scrutiny. And that's, again, what I said, the nature of celebrity. However, Jeremy, in my opinion, and I know in the opinion of many, and the opinion of the people that made this video, I feel, gets ridiculous levels of criticism. Everybody criticizes him. Everybody's trying to take him down. That's what it seems like. And so this video, I don't know the proper term to say it. If it's a parable or an allegory, I'm not sure, and I apologize for that. As I said, I could have used a little bit more preparation on this. The video is a representation of that reality. Everybody, everywhere, including his own mother, is a critic of Jeremy. And they're mad at Jeremy because he didn't do something right, or he didn't do something they wanted him to do, etc., etc., etc. And everybody's an expert. Everybody knows what Jeremy should do, except they're not experts. And they don't know what he should do. But they all think they're experts, even people like me. But again, this video's not made about me. I don't think it was, although, who knows? You never know. And I accept that. Like I said, if you're somebody that does what we do, if you're somebody with the YouTube channel, if you're somebody with the Twitter account, and you're critiquing these guys, and you're critiquing celebrities, and you're taking shots at people, guess what? A lot of them pay attention to that stuff. I mean, you've seen it a million times on Twitter. Some of these athletes will respond to these people, as it recently happened with Dwight Howard and a young woman. Nobody likes to be criticized all the time, and they particularly don't like to be criticized by people who don't know what they're talking about. That's what this video, Jeremy's too dignified, in my opinion, to take shots at people like that. But what this video is partly saying is, you guys don't know what you're talking about. All of you, or almost all of you. That's what the Coach Ryan Higa thing is about. And that applies to me too. Like I said, I know the game well, but I don't know basketball as well as Jeremy does, because I'm not a professional, right? I never coached at a professional level. And that's part of the point of this video that they made. Jeremy knows what he's doing. He knows better than you do. It's all good. It's all okay. Why don't you just let him live his life? And again, I'm glad they're making these videos, because Jeremy needs this. As we talked about in the Reloaded analysis, Jeremy is entering into the discussion of his own narrative and of his own public image. And that's good. He deserves this. He's taken way too much criticism. And I said that all public figures are criticized or scrutinized, and that is true. However, some people are treated differently than others by the media. I think I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. Well, I actually mentioned somebody else than what I was going to. Excuse me. One person that was protected by the media was Michael Jordan. And I love Michael Jordan. I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan, and he is absolutely the greatest player that ever lived in basketball, in my opinion. However, the media went out of their way to protect Michael. And I remember it clearly. As I told you guys, I have a decent background in media and media analysis, and I know a lot of this stuff, and I remember it when it happened. If you tried to say something bad about Michael, people would come after you. I mean, and when I mean come after you, I mean writers would, hey, what are you doing? Maybe they're going to talk about you and make you look bad because you said something bad about Michael. So there are figures, and that's just how it works. Again, in what John and I have done politically and stuff, you see a lot of this, in campaigns and stuff, People are trying to make people look good, and they're trying to make people look bad. That's the nature of the business. And this happens in all media and whatever. And there are figures that are liked, and there are figures that are disliked. Right now, Jeremy Lin isn't really liked, and that's unfortunate. I'm not saying nobody likes him in the media, but there's a lot more negative voices than there are positive voices. And that's part of why I do what I do with these videos, because somebody's got to tell the truth, and somebody's got to stand up for Jeremy and his side. And now Jeremy is standing up for himself with these videos, and there are different ways to do it. Again, you can make a reloaded video and be straight ahead, working hard, getting stronger, blah, blah, and you can make a comedy video and still get your point across, which is what You've Changed, Bro is all about. Now, after that, we go into, they show outtakes, just kind of like some goofy things and this type of stuff. And it's really good, just funny stuff. And, you get to see more of, again, kind of like some mess ups and just fun stuff. And as I said, look, and then finally, the final scene of the video is the words from the Bible chapter Romans 12 -2. It says, "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think." Now, as I said, obviously, one of the main themes of the video is change. Now, again, various of the haters in the video are saying that Jeremy changed. Well, he didn't really change. They changed in how they look at him and what they want from him and what they think he can do for them. However, as I mentioned before, in some ways, things did change, or he's trying to change them. Again, he doesn't have to sleep on the couch anymore, so please don't make him sleep on the floor. And in the scene with James Harden, maybe I'm getting better. Maybe I'm improving. And again, is that okay? So this is the Romans passage kind of comes back to it. Comes back to change, and he is changing, and he's trying to change in a positive way. Would you guys please let him do that? Because they don't want to seem to let him do that, even though that's supposedly what they want. And I also take the Romans passage as going back, shining a spotlight on the critics, which a lot of what this video is, saying, why don't you guys that are looking and criticizing me, maybe you should change? And so when I look at the thing, it says, don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world. It's like, it's very fashionable right now to criticize Jeremy Lin. So even though there's dual or more meanings in that passage, I think, as applies to this video. And I think part of the message is to the critics, like, why don't you guys stop following the herd on criticizing Jeremy and change and have a little, become less absurd in your criticism. So why don't we step away from that a little bit? And that's the way that I took that passage. And again, it also, as I said, it goes to Jeremy is trying to change in a positive way. And his life is getting better. His game is getting better. So please let him do that. So as I said, wrapping up here, there were several themes in this video. The overriding one being the absurdity of the criticism towards Jeremy. And that was represented in almost every single scene in the video. And it did a really, really good job of showing it. And again, pointing out that many of these people, they don't know what they're talking about when they're telling him how to do stuff like the Phil Wang character about, I'll teach you how to dribble, or Coach Ryan Higa. They're only interested in their own thing, like the video game guys, like the students with the interviewing, or like Kev Jumbo when he's talking about making videos with Jeremy. Or they don't want Jeremy to change in a positive way, even though they say they do. That's where the sleeping on the couch and the James Harden, hey, you never go left. Now I'm disappointed that you actually are doing something positive. Or the Kev Jumbo, you're actually trying to have your own channel. Well, we can't have that. You've got to make videos for me. So it's a brilliant video. Again, this is about a 6-minute video. Again, I cannot give enough praise to the people that made the video. It looks good, again, with the work of Jeremy Cho, and I believe Justin Yu, although I'm not sure that that's the Justin Yu that I think it is. It looks good. It's written well. The overall concept is good. The acting is good. It's effective. And Jeremy does a great job. And again, it's the old saying is that there are different ways to skin a cat. And there are different ways to kind of tell your critics to back off of you and to kind of tell your fans that you understand what people are saying about you, and you're getting your own message out about it. And that's what these two last videos by Jeremy are. Reloaded is one way of addressing that, and You've Changed, Bro is another way of addressing that. And they're both great. And again, I'm very excited that he did that. So that's it for now. Thumbs up, thumbs down on this video. I keep getting phone calls while I'm making this video. It's like the third one. Sorry about that. That's actually JDV calling me right now. I'll call him back in a second. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Your comments below. What did you think about this video? I know a lot of you really liked it based upon what you've already said in what John's video about John and my video about this video, about the You've Changed, Bro video, and about the comments that were left in the video that I got to do about Jeremy going to Asia. Let us know. Tell us what you thought. What did you think about it, and did you see the things in it that I saw in it? Again, we encourage you to come and join the Conservative New Media Facebook group. That group has over 2,500 members and growing all the time, and we'd love to have you come and join up as well. Again, I am Paul F. Villarreal, PFV, the NBA expert. Thanks a lot for watching Conservative New Media. We do strive to be the #1 Jeremy Lin YouTube fan channel. It is 11:26 a.m. on Thursday, August 15th. Here, 2013, here in the East Coast of the United States, which means it's 11:26 p.m. over in Taipei, Taiwan, where Jeremy is right now, or he's certainly in Taiwan if he's not in Taipei. I hope he's having a great time over there. I hope all of the Lin Garden fan club members that are over there, and we know Lisa Tong and Hanny Chang have already stopped by and talked to us about Lisa got to go and greet Jeremy at the airport, and I know Hanny Chang is going to try to get to Jeremy's basketball camp, I believe. And JJ from, well, actually she's not from there anymore, so I won't say that, but appreciate the message that you sent to me, and certainly have, I'm very thankful for the respect shown to myself and to John from the Lin Garden fan club and from all of Jeremy's fans. Everybody, you guys do great. And there's something I'm thinking of in particular, and I'll talk more about it later in another video later. But I really appreciate the kindness and the consideration of you guys. It's overwhelming. I never went into making these videos for a lot of those reasons, but I know that for a lot of people, particularly in the last year, because it was such a hard time for Jeremy, that just from the responses of people, that the videos have meant a lot to people. And it's kind of going back to what I said earlier, which is it's an oasis in haterland, and I'm glad that it could fulfill that function. As I've said before, there are a lot of people who haven't been real eager to see Jeremy succeed. And it's just unfortunate. And there's a lot of people who do want Jeremy to succeed. And so for those people, the last year has been brutal because you're not hearing a lot of positivity about Jeremy. And that's, again, I think that these videos that we do have been helpful in that respect. And that's the reaction that I've gotten from people like the Lin Garden fan club. And so we're thankful for that. We're glad that we were able to do that. But now Jeremy's starting to come to his own defense, and that's even better. And I think you're going to see Jeremy do even more on the court, as long as he is able to stay healthy. And so pretty soon, he might not need a lot of defending. Hopefully, unfortunately, there's always going to be critics no matter how good you are. Again, I used the example of LeBron James before, and he's a great example of that. No matter how good you are, there's some people and some figures that people are just always going to criticize. But I think things are going to get better and better for Jeremy. And as I said in the last video I made, I think Jeremy's in a very good place mentally. And it's great, man. This should be a really exciting season. And look, you see in the video, James Harden and Patrick Beverley didn't have to be in that video, but they're supporting Jeremy. And that's good. All this chitter chatter and everybody's, fighting and are at each other's throats. Well, I guess not. That's what I told you guys in the Reloaded analysis. A picture's worth 1,000 words. Maybe people can say whatever they want, but, I just saw Patrick Beverley and James Harden in Jeremy's video. So I guess things are going okay. And that's it. That's taking control of your own image. So, 11:26 a.m. East Coast, 11:26 p.m. And Paul, I did check. Central European time is 6 hours ahead, and that means that it is 5:26 p.m. on Thursday, August 15, 2013 in Central Europe. That's it for now. Hope you're having a great summer in the Northern Hemisphere and a manageable winter in the Southern Hemisphere, as, for example, in Southern Africa, South America, and Australia, where Melody Ting and many others are. So take care of yourselves and talk to you soon.